Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Make Your Mark podcast. And boy, do I have another amazing guest for you today. Now, she was made in Taipei, Taiwan, but grown and brought up in the USA. I know, right? You're thinking, what the hell is going on? Well, you're going to know a little bit more about her. Now, Jenny C. Cohen is an outside in mastery expert, breast cancer survivor, and a multi-time #1 best-selling author. She created the Dance to Heal program and podcast because she believes in a world where everyone can dance to heal and feel safe in their bodies, knowing they are created in beauty and perfection in spite of life happenings. She lives in Salt Lake City with her husband of 30 years, fraternal twins from IVF, 2 pups, and 13.3 cats. Well, we're going to need to know a little bit more about that. Now, please welcome Jenny to the stage. Jenny, I'm so excited for you to be here.
Thank you so much for having me, Kay. Hello, Kay's audience.
Oh my goodness, you're so cute. So I have a ton of questions for you, right? That you've been through so many ups and downs, right? You've gained so many skills, so many experiences, and you've got so much to give to your clients, right? It's unbelievable. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of what you actually do and the magic you create for your clients, I'd love for you to share with our audience today a little bit about your journey and how you managed to build the business that you have today, because we all know it doesn't happen overnight.
Yes, I'm making a squinchy face for those of us who are just listening. It doesn't happen overnight. I think one of the things I've learned as a mom of 2 kids that we had through in vitro fertilization, and we ended up homeschooling them, and now they're in college. It's always been a process, right? For me, I was an occupational therapist before the children were born. And then once I was about 36 weeks pregnant, all the doctors said to me, "You're fine. You can keep working, keep going into the city, do your hand therapy. You can work up until the day you deliver." Meanwhile,
Whoa.
I had no lap. That's how large my abdomen was. I even got stuck in the sofa. I laid in the sofa to watch a TV show and wedged myself with my big pregnant belly into the corner of the sofa, and I took 2 hours to get myself out. Yes. So
It sounds funny, but it probably wasn't funny at the time.
it's hysterical now. It wasn't funny then because I was so afraid I was going to have an accident in my sofa and be stuck there for my husband to come home.
Oh my
Yes,
goodness.
yes. I digress. My point is, healing for me was never a sticking point, or I never went through with it until my kids were born.
Mm.
Yes, I had a lot of healing to do, and on my own, I couldn't see the signs. It was with my kids being in distress and me missing those signs. That's
Wow.
what started the Dance to Heal program.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Okay. So many questions already, right? So why did you not think about healing yourself prior to your kids? Was it not a priority or never came up? Like, what was the mind shift there?
Yes. I've always danced,
Mm.
especially from college onward. I love dancing. Dancing felt to me like a prayer. It
Ooh.
felt like I was praying with the universe. It was this gratitude, a connection I would feel, even if I was dancing by myself versus dancing in a room full of people. All
Mm.
right. And science is finding dancing is one of the few, if not only, activity when you dance to music that activates and unites every part of your brain.
Ooh, really?
Yes. Yes, it's one of the few things where they put electrodes on the brain, the person danced to a music song, and every part of the brain lit up.
Interesting. Okay, so what
Yes.
you're saying, Nancy, is we all need to dance a lot more.
Y'all need to dance a lot more. I mean, I recommend being careful, of course, in the shower, dancing naked in your shower. Serious, because we're so free then, no one's watching us.
Right.
I mean, unless you're in OnlyFans, that's different. I digress. My point, though, is when I started doing dancing, and it was always part of my life, even after having children, it was this wonderful way of coming back to my body. When I was done with my breast cancer, I was still dancing. And unfortunately, because I was still running away from the medical trauma of getting treatment, no one talks about that. There's a lot of medical trauma from getting treatment from cancer. Any type of illness, honestly, we need to address that way more. And I was running away from that horribly traumatic experience. It saved my life. It was very traumatic because I had to sit there and let them pump poisons into my body. It was that freeze response to trauma, right? So once I was medically released, I went back into dance as more of an escape from my life because I never processed those feelings. And it
Right.
came to a head during Mother's Day weekend.
Mm.
Four years ago, we had taken our kids back home to the Boston area to meet their homeschooling friends.
Oh,
My
wow.
kids are in vitro, so they are the center of my lives. Okay, it was very very deliberate decision to be a mom. I could have been child free and had money, and I
Right.
chose children. I chose to take a piece of my heart and stick it on the world for the world to get to. Either way, and my child asked to speak with me in the bathroom of the hotel. And thought, oh, my child's going to thank me for this amazing trip, right? Because it
Right.
wasn't cheap to fly back East Coast from where we were living in the West Coast.
Right.
And this child proceeded to show me grooves of scars in their shoulder and in their thighs that were hidden by their clothing. They've been self-harming. So trigger warning, the
Oh,
story, they've been self-harming and then making plans not to be around anymore. And I'm so grateful we had that relationship. They could tell me that.
mm,
My only issue with myself during that time was because I'm an occupational therapist and I worked with pediatrics, I went into clinical mode. We came home, we set her up with therapy, knocked up all the knives, locked them all up in these lock boxes, threw out all the scissors. We had like 50 pairs of scissors. Don't ask me why we have 50 pairs of scissors. Every single like pencil sharpener, they have blades. We locked all of that up, right? And I thought, my child's safe. And I went right back to my dance activity. 2 weeks later, a local beautiful dancer from California was guesting in Salt Lake, and I went to that event. And this
mm.
child knew that everybody would nap and waited until her twin brother and her father were sleeping and locked herself out in the bathroom because she had found brand new fish fillet knives I missed.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And
Wow.
when I got home and I was butterflying all her cuts on her, she went at her arm, and and I'm crying, and she's looking at me, and folks, she wasn't there. It was a complete stranger looking at me. My daughter was just gone. And I knew right then and there, I cannot use dance as an escape. I have to get present immediately. I can't admit my child because I knew her personality. She would see it as an abandonment and I would really lose her.
Ah,
So we went into this extreme 2 years of me helping her just process the trauma that she had repressed for years. And we found
wow.
a therapist who specialized in complex PTSD. And now, once we got my daughter to this therapist, I realized, oh my gosh, I have a lot of trauma I never dealt with because I'm old school. Old school, you know that generation where they're like, just get over it already. Why do we need to talk about it? That was my
Right.
generation, right? And
Mm.
here I had to confront a lot of neglect because my parents were farmers and immigrants. Survival was really important to them. They weren't worried about you thriving. They needed you to live. That's
Yeah.
what my parents were focused on, right? And then they brought us to the States where everyone's getting hugged and kissed and loved on by their parents. I never had any of that.
Mm. Now, okay, I've got a couple of questions there, and you don't have to answer them if you don't want to, right? But so your daughter was going through some sort of trauma, something was going on. Did you find what the root cause, why it was that she was self-harming?
All right. So I want to clarify something regarding when people go, oh, I never had any trauma in my childhood. Were you ever a baby? Yeah. Did your adults who took care of you, did they know immediately exactly what you needed every moment of your babyhood? No, right? So they've been doing a lot of researching that depending on a person's makeup, one thing that is not traumatic for one person can be extremely traumatic for someone else.
Wow.
Because when we're children, we're powerless. We're at the whim of the adults taking care of us. And
Mm.
if something happens, something minor or something major, a trigger warning like SA or something, right? Our undeveloped little baby brains have to come up with a way or a reason why that happened. And we can't blame the adults. We will internalize that into ourselves and make up a script. I'm not deserving of this. I am stupid, blah, 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 right? And we wrap it up in all these layers of survivorship to get to today. And that was what we had to find out because, my daughter really did have SA from a family member.
Interesting.
And that's what it really led to. We couldn't figure it out. We had a really good therapist who suspected, she had some abuse, inappropriate touching and things like that from a relative. She never brought it up. She waited for my daughter to get well enough to even be able to confront that thought in her head.
Wow.
It was devastating for her to come to that realization, because you think family members you can trust, and actually they're the ones statistically who are guilty of most of the inappropriate things because it's a trust factor. We don't think about it. You think your family member is trustworthy. And unfortunately, if the cycle isn't broken, of all of that abuse on children isn't broken, it just keeps transferring from generation to generation, right? I'm very happy to say amongst my family and my husband, the buck stops with us. It will not continue because our kids are healed.
Yeah.
Because of this therapist. You know what I'm saying? So it's all come full circle and they're thriving. My kids are thriving in college. And it was really hard the first couple of years. I'm not going to sugarcoat that.
Yeah.
We had to do checks all the time and our knives are still locked up. We only have 3 steak knives out.
Wow.
So we can visually see when they're out to help her stay safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. When she went on campus, we had to worry about her maybe buying blades at the bookstore.
Wow. And so how old was she when she was going through this? And it affects the whole family. You're all going through it.
Well, right now my kids are in their 20s. When this whole thing blew up was because they're twins. So they were about 17, 18 when that happened. And the events that happened were when they were like 3 and 4.
Wow.
In the neurolinguistic programming world, we talk a lot, and even in therapy, they talk about how who you are really doesn't get formulated until after 7. Like we're still in sleep state before 7 years old. Our brains aren't fully online yet. We're just absorbing everything around us and then trying to make sense of it. Right? Yes. So a lot of times, audience, you may have internalized a moment when you felt powerless. It doesn't have to be something horribly traumatic like what my daughter went through. It can be anything, any moment where you felt powerless and at the whim of the people taking care of you. What do? You got to make up a story so it makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. And so just be aware that all of the dancing with the being somatically centered helps us get in touch with the present us, because oftentimes if we don't do that, you're either lost in the past or worrying about the future.
Interesting. Okay, right. That makes complete sense because, that's all that goes through our mind. Like, what's going to happen? It's the unknown of the future that stresses us out, or it's something that's happened to us in the past. So that makes complete sense. I love that. Now, while all this is going on, right? You're going through life, right? Having to make sure that your daughter was fine. The fact that you was also going through cancer and treatment and was pumped full of drugs and having to deal with the after effects. Jenny, how did you manage to then build a business on top of that?
I think I had to thank the panini. I called it the panini, the lockdown. That was when I was able to be certified through the Yoga Body yoga program. They're based out in Barcelona, and they went online.
Oh.
And here's the thing. I already coached my kids through Junior Olympics. I homeschooled them. I had all the skills to help anybody. In my mind, I felt like I needed more certifications so that people would feel safe working with me. I'm an occupational therapist. My goal is to get people to where they want to go and be independent in that arena. That's what I'm trained in. That's what I used for my kids becoming junior Olympians. I can't do a cartwheel, okay? But I could teach it really, really well.
I
Right?
see.
Yeah.
Right. And so I feel like you're like Superwoman, Jenny. Like you taught your kids, right, at home, right? You've been a mom, you've been a wife, plus, your kids were going through some traumatic things. Your body went through traumatic things. You're being a wife. You probably do the cooking, the cleaning as well. and building a business on top. Like, how did you find the time? How did you find the energy to do all of this?
Delegation, Kay. Yes,
Oh,
I used to do it. Now my husband does the shopping. And because technically my kids are adults, right? So we all cook our own food. We had to go through some exploration because, my son has celiac, so he cannot have any gluten.
okay.
We all have asthma, so none of us have milk products in the house, right?
Oh,
When tracing my breast cancer, there's a book called The China Study that was based out in China, and they compare the population living on the outskirts near the shore versus deep inland, and they did it longitudinally over, I think, like 10 generations. And they found a correlation between cancer and heart disease on the more affluent outer areas of China
oh,
versus, yeah, versus the people who were still inland, very poor. They had other sicknesses, but they weren't dying from cancer and heart disease.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And even here in the States, every time there was a war, right, the
Mm.
supplies for milk and meat would decrease. So would the heart disease and the cancers in this country, those would go down. As soon as they get affluent, everybody thinks they should have meat, right? And milk and everything else, all those numbers would go back up.
Oh my goodness.
So my
That
husband's a
is
vegan.
very
I'm mostly vegan. I still have like egg whites, and both my kids, my daughter has a very severe EpiPen she needs to carry for nut allergies.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
And my son's very allergic to seafood. So, the delegation of that is just everyone prepares their own food and we just keep the fridge pretty full and everyone goes shopping out with their dad. Since the panini, Mike was the person doing the shopping. However, if you don't have someone, you can bring it in. Whole Foods has deliveries, folks.
Mm.
We're very diligent with cleaning anything from outside. We wipe it all down or spray it down before we bring it in the house.
Wow. Okay. Now, I want to take it back to business. Right now, through your experience, your journey, this is how you basically came up with the program, your business that you currently have, and helping creating magic with your clients, which is awesome. Now, I would love for you to tell our audience a little bit about some of the examples, maybe even some, journeys that clients that you've had and what the challenges that they came to you for and how you helped them out, what that process looked like and what the result that you actually got your clients.
Oh, I would love to talk about that. So I'm gonna keep them anonymous, right? Because we do
Okay.
want to protect
Yeah.
the anonymity. There's one client, I knew her, we'll call her Joy. So Joy and I already know each other from the dance community, and we were part of a big production, and we had gone to conversation because we were in a high stress performance setting, and I was able to give her on the spot coaching with reminding her that the energy she was absorbing wasn't necessarily hers. And then she had said, Jenny, I got to work with you. So when we were done with that show, she called me up, and her biggest thing was feeling that no one would listen to her. That was a big thing for her. So she signed on to be a private coaching time with me for a breakthrough, and we worked on that. And here's the difficulties. She didn't want to schedule, and we had to put that into one of her things. She didn't want to schedule. She didn't want to journal. And it was really interesting because one of my biggest things I need people to do is journal. You know what journaling is? It's talking to your subconscious. And so
Mm,
you gotta keep in, that inside outside, we gotta mesh them together. My audio people, I'm clasping my hands together. You gotta mesh your inside and the outside, your conscious and subconscious. And we also do this thing, audience, you're welcome to do this anytime you need to. Whatever your dominant hand is, ask yourself this question that no one seems to be able to answer for you. Then put your pen in the non-dominant hand and let it free write an answer.
interesting. Wait, if you're going to put a pen in your non-dominant hand, how are you going to get an answer? Because I cannot write with my non-dominant hand.
Well, that's what you say now. Over time, it will give you answers. Your subconscious is
Really?
desperately trying to communicate with you. Here's the thing, there's a Carl Jung quote that's my absolutely favorite, and I always get chills when I say it. I'm going to share it with you now. Until you make the unconscious conscious, life will happen to you and you will call it fate.
We'll repeat that again.
Until you make your unconscious conscious, life will happen to you and you will call it fate.
Mm.
So basically, it's putting the onus on where you are right now on you, because our subconscious, which is 90% of us back here, like right now, Kay and I are conversing with you, audience, and you're listening and watching. That's 10% of us. There's another 90% of us in our subconscious whose main job is to keep us safe. Even if we're not happy with where we are, it's still it's a safety. It knows how to handle it. If we
Wow.
want to go off in another direction,
Yeah.
your subconscious will fight you tooth and nail, because how does your subconscious keep you safe? If you're going into some new arena.
I hear you. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the client that you had, she didn't want to journal, she didn't want to schedule. So how did you help her through that process?
I told her she had to do it, and then we set up consequences if she didn't do it. And
Oh,
yeah, not severe ones. Kay knows what I'm talking about, not that kind of stuff, because we're dancers and we can't do extremes like that. It was more, things that would really upset her undealt with child parts. So in therapy, they have this theory called internal family systems. And basically, as we grow up, we will internalize voices and influences of the adults from around us. It's still us, but we act these roles in our head, right? Like my mom is right now very far away on the other side of the country. And if I'm feeling bad about myself, it'll be my mom's voice berating me in my head. She's not doing it. It's still in my head though, right? That I'm not smart enough, not working hard enough. Did I get too fat after having the kids? She didn't say these in the recent past. She hasn't said those ever to me, but I still internalize those. And they'll
wow.
come out and be on top of me, right? So what we did with Joy was she had a consequence where she didn't do the journaling. And I said, she's an artist, a phenomenal artist. I was like, you don't have to write. You can draw a picture.
Ooh, okay.
Right? Yeah, you could draw a picture, you can do bullet points. It doesn't have to be similar to the artist way where you have to write cursive for 3 pages. I used to do that. It would take me 3 hours to get 3 pages, and I stopped doing that because I was like, I can't, I'm thinking too much, right?
Mhm.
So what you want to do is always come up with ways that you can sneak in a little bit of a shift. Because again, your subconscious is super powerful and it will find ways to undermine you if you don't
Ooh.
get it on board. We also have a methodology called clearing denial, which means we're touching chakra and meridian points to bring your own truth out of you, so that when you see people or you're trying to make sense of something, your intuition will really ring true to tell you, is this really meant for you or is this not meant for you?
Interesting. Oh, wow. And this is, I guess, this also helps not just to make general decisions, but also business decisions, which can be tricky.
That's the thing. That's the thing. The business decisions, right? Because
Mm.
we're inundated by so much data. And yet I've
Yes.
heard, right? And I've heard, so I have like 7 different business mentors, right? And
Mhm.
I've come to this conclusion because, there are a couple of ones that really took advantage of my naiveness, okay? So I spent thousands of dollars on them and I didn't know that they just wanted the money. They didn't necessarily want to help me. That's another thing.
Right.
If I had done the muscle testing then with them, the answer probably would have been no to work with them. I have squirrel syndrome. New things excite me. Sometimes I'll say yes without thinking. A lot of us do that, right?
Yeah.
And what's been coming to the forefront now is I have programs that now I'm going back to because I muscle tested. Is this time to start a new thing? The answer was no. Should I go back
Mm.
to this program? Yes. So now I'm refocusing on these programs that I signed up for, business programs like speaking programs, business mentor people, all of that is coming full circle because now I can actually implement. When you're first starting a business, a lot of times we don't even know how much work it is. We
Right.
just don't, no
Yeah.
one tells us, right?
Mm-mm.
We want to look for that easy fix and start making money.
Mm-hmm.
And all of my clients, I have a book, Outside in Recovery, Dancing My Way Back to Myself After Breast Cancer, that came out in January of 23.
Mm.
And this whole Dance to Heal Wellness was originally geared towards breast cancer survivors. Would you
Right.
believe all of my one-on-one clients do not have breast cancer, don't have cancer? They're
Oh,
almost the me before we got breast cancer.
oh, interesting. So it's almost like they're coming to you as a preventative measure so they don't fall into, I guess, what you experienced, right?
Yeah.
But your
Yeah.
story has, I guess, woken them up to let them know you got to do something right now. You don't want to be where I was.
Yes, yes. This,
Wow.
in the Evolved NLP program I'm part of, we study a portion on German New Medicine. And it's going to go woo woo, folks. However, woo woo works. I'm sorry, it works. All right. And so
Right.
in German New Medicine, they talk a lot about how whenever we go through a traumatic experience, whatever that is, we already determined traumatic is different for different people. All right.
Yeah.
One traumatic incident, whatever that is. For me, it was the month before I found the lump in my breast, the month before my husband went in and had an emergency surgery.
Oh my
Now,
goodness.
at that time, my husband had had cancer 19 years before. And we thought, oh my God, did his cancer come back? He had a bowel obstruction that came out of nowhere. And they were going to go in, and we didn't know if it was really going to be a bowel obstruction or more cancer. We did not know what was happening. And I
Right.
was sleeping by his bedside, and then my two kids were sleeping in the car with the two dogs. And I drained whatever little bit of energy I had in my body. All right. And that was a traumatic instance. So in German New Medicine, they say that when you go through a traumatic moment, two things light up in you. Some part of your brain will light up. They document this with their research. And then a subsequent part of your body will light up to that part of your brain. And they'll start firing. And if you don't resolve it, it becomes an illness. My breast cancer.
Dang.
I was not, I mean, I thought I was going to be a widow again, like, because he had had cancer 19 years before. So it was this horrifying experience, where I just felt like everything broke down. Everything broke down. And I know in my heart that that's what started, on top of the China study. We read that I don't have any more dairy or whey protein, because I know in my body that led to some of my cancer. For me, I've tested it,
Wow.
so I don't do whey protein at all, ever. I like to have some meat, some bacon. Can't say no to bacon occasionally. Egg white, right? But for the most part, I'm kind of mostly, what is it, the ovarian or something? The person that eats eggs and fish occasionally, right?
Okay.
So that's basically something we all need to be aware of. And
Wow.
we all just survived the pandemic, the panini,
Yeah. That's
right?
right.
And we have to analyze those feelings. There's anger
Yeah.
and survivor guilt. We really
Right.
have to really, look at that.
Right. Now, oh my goodness, like I feel like I can speak to you all day long, right? Around all of this. This is awesome stuff. Now, I guess the clients that come to you, what do you hear time and time again? What are the same challenges that keep coming up? And how would you suggest or advise our listeners today how to overcome some of those challenges?
Oh, yeah, across the board, none of them ever put themselves first. Across the board.
Oh, yes, right.
No one,
Business owners,
and if you're a business owner, yeah,
yes. Oh my God, I feel like that is our biggest downfall, is not putting ourselves first, right?
yeah,
We're too worried about everybody else and our clients, and this is where we get burned and get tired and exhausted because we forget about ourselves.
yes. Yes, we forget about ourselves because we're doing everything, aren't we? We're doing
Yes.
everything. I mean, I'm doing everything except for Kay. Kay helps me. If you want to do a podcast, use Kay. Tell him Jenny sent you. Anyways, so for me, it was also that care of yourself is vital. Please, please check in with your body about unresolved trauma. Okay, that's part of the take care of yourself. No, you could do limitless bubble baths and massages and manicures, and if you don't deal with that trauma you're still carrying with you, it's still going to wreak havoc on your health, folks. So when I say self-care, it's not the surface massage, folks. Ooh, my thumb just went up. Look at that. It's not I got a thumb on the Zoom. It's not, it is more. It's more than the massage and the facial, which is of course vital. And at the same time, internal work has to be done. The best thing to do is, if you don't normally dance, Find a playlist of your favorite songs and dance around to it, and then tune in to your five senses while you're doing it, and add in breath work. So like smell, taste, hearing, your feet on the floor. Yeah. Peripheral vision, meaning like not super focused, but open up your visual field. That will turn on your parasympathetic nervous system so that you're calmer. And then that, if you're journaling, you can then use that right hand, left hand journal and be like, why am I so mad at this blah, blah? And then your non-dominant will be like, because, you don't deserve that or something. Like, let it answer you. This is a whole system that I do with my clients.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And it sounds like you get really deep with your clients, which is awesome. And it sounds like also, your clients are like family with you, right? Because they're telling you all this deep personal stuff, right, to really help them. And the fact that you actually customize it to what they need, because everyone's different, which is awesome.
Yes. So I can't be the one person for all the people that need it. And also, my private clients, they have access to me via Voxer 24/7.
Wow.
That's that level of support, because sometimes if you're so alone, right, and you don't want to explain to other people. And the worst thing is when I'm venting to a friend and they're telling me, what do you have to vent about? You're happily married, your kids are good. I'm like, you don't understand this, right? Yeah, I've had people say that, and other clients had people say that to them. And then there's also just a group membership if you want to do that, where I have an app with all these dance classes with cues for you to tune into your breath work so you don't have to remember. And then they can tune into the monthly calls. Or some people are like, I don't want to do that. I just want to dance in the app. Well, here's your app, because I'm certified in so many dance forms. They're all on that app. The goal is to get you moving and being present, because then you have all the answers. What I loved about my NLP training was they always said, you need to drop into their space. So I will only ever help you from your perspective. I'm not some big I'm doing an umbrella, you guys, omnipotent power telling you do this. I'm working with what a person needs to shift.
I love that. I love that. Now, I know at this point, Jenny, people are thinking, oh my goodness, she is blowing my mind right now. I need to connect with her. So where can they go to connect with you, talk with you, or even join your program, because they know they need this?
Yeah. So some clients like to check me out first. Yeah. And I'm totally fine with that. Find me under Jenny, JENNY, as in cat, Cohen, COHEN. Okay. I'm under Jenny C. Cohen under everything. I made it easy so people can find me. If you would like a gift of doing some cardio dance with some myofascial release work, go to danceandheal, HEAL.com, and you get a free class with me.
Ooh.
If you immediately want to talk to me and say, hey, Jenny, I really just want to talk to you, email me at jenny@jennyccohen.com. So there's 2 C's in there. Jenny Cohen's are a dime a dozen, but Jenny C. Cohen is just one.
I love it. Oh my goodness, guys. I encourage you to go and reach out to Jenny, check out her stuff. Because I know she can help you. She does amazing work. She's been there, she's done it, and she's come out the other side of it, and she can help you. So go and reach out to her and go and check out some of the stuff. You will not believe it. Like, it's freaking insane what she can do. And the fact that she's so calm and collective and so nice and approachable and just totally a lovable person is an absolute bonus on top of it. You will not regret it, guys. Jenny, thank you so much for coming onto the show. So many golden nuggets in such a short amount of time. Appreciate it.
I'm doing a heart sign. Love you.
Awesome. Thanks for once again coming on the show.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.